Currently in the NBA, we have a handful of legends still active in the league. However, in today's video, we're going to make sure every single franchise is home to the best of the best by adding every organization's greatest player of all time to the roster. To kick things off, let's go over the easy ones. Obviously, Michael Jordan has to be the guy for the Bulls. Same thing for LeBron James of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Depending on who you ask, Giannis Antetokounmpo might be considered the best due to the fact that he's still on the team. Instead of having duplicate players, we would slide down a spot and choose whoever is considered second throughout this video. Personally, I think the title still belongs to Kareem. Whether or not that's true, he still returns to Milwaukee regardless, covering one of his teammates, Oscar Robertson. He makes an appearance in this simulation as well in Sacramento. Julius Erving is back with the Nets and Philadelphia. Hakeem Olajuwon returns to Houston. Tim Duncan teams up with Victor Wembanyama. Their other teammate Chris Paul is leading the Pelicans. Larry Bird joins this already stacked Celtics roster. 95 overall Wes Unseld joins Jordan Poole as a Wizard. Last but not least in the Bay is Wilt Chamberlain. Obviously, if Steph retired or was no longer in Golden State, he would for sure take Wilt's place. Now going over some of the other teams. This is probably the part of the video where a lot of you might begin to roast me. Just know that I came to these conclusions based on what the fans said online. First up is the Miami Heat, and this time around I decided to go with LeBron James. That's a lie, by the way. I actually chose Dwayne Wade instead. Although while coming up with this video idea, a lot of flip-flopping was going on between the two. Definitely has a lot to do with my bias towards LeBron because I was a pretty big fan of him when he was on the Heat. Also, he did win 2 MVPs in Miami. If you would have chose Bron over D Wade, no problems over here. Just be careful who you tell that to because there are for sure a lot of fans that would disagree with you. Charlotte Hornets have a weird thing going on with their positions. Kemba Walker is here instead of Alonzo Mourning, so LaMelo and Brandon Miller both have to adapt to new roles. Chris Paul is a Clipper once again. Marcus Gasol is taking away Zach 80 minutes, which is unfortunate. Dominique Wilkins, who I remember being really good in videos like this, has now returned to Atlanta. Another one of my controversial picks has to be Karl Malone over John Stockton. You should probably know that I didn't want to do this either. I nearly forgot about Patrick Ewing, but he's here as well. Los Angeles Lakers, my goodness, there are so many people we could have gone with, from Magic to Kobe to Shaq. I went with the second option of Mr. Bean Bryant. Might add that he fits really well on the team. Speaking of Shaquille O'Neal, Orlando was up next, and my dumb self nearly made the mistake of not choosing him. In the beginning, it was Dwight Howard. After comparing their stints on the Magic together, really don't see the vision of Dwight being better than Shaq. If anyone has an explanation as to why he should be considered the greatest Magic player of all time, would absolutely love to hear them. But moving over to Dallas, oh yeah, Dirk should have been mentioned a long time ago. Denver was super difficult for me as well. Jokic is by far the most accomplished. It's not even close. Runner-ups this time around were David Thompson and Alex English. Now, it would be a lie to tell you that yours truly knows anything about these players, which means research had to be done, articles and essays were read. Ultimately, between the two, I came to the conclusion that David Thompson was my man. Spoiler alert, Reggie Miller is the only custom player to be featured in this video. Paul George was another guy I pondered about. Isaiah Thomas is on the Pistons, by the way. I'm sure you saw that in the intro. Raptors were hard for me as well, solely from being a Kawhi fan. Anytime there's a possibility to show him in a video, I always jump on it. Vince was the first player to have his jersey retired. He also played for them much longer than just a single season. Up next are 2 point guards, Steve Nash of the Phoenix Suns and Russell Westbrook on OKC. Both him and Barkley are great. No biases or anything like that, but I understand if anyone disagrees. Kevin Durant was the first player to be thought of when making this roster. The moment I came back to earth and remembered Russ, he was chosen immediately instead. Correct me if I'm wrong, but KG on the Timberwolves should be our final player to go over. Only other options were Kevin Love, maybe Karl Anthony Towns. That might sound crazy at first, but he does have a conference finals under his belt. There you have it. Those are all the newly added legends to be chosen for this 3-year simulation. That's right, we're changing things up a bit and going for 3 seasons. I have every single one of those players under contract at the minimum. First year, nobody will be allowed to make trades. After that, however, there is total free reign. Let's find out if one team will dominate the league or if our champions will be spread evenly among the best franchises. In the Western Conference at the All-Star break, your top 3 seeds are Dallas, Minnesota, and OKC. Currently throughout the league, they are the only ones to reach the 40-win mark. The Spurs team seems to be doing pretty well for itself. I say that because they are the 4th seed. The addition of Tim Duncan gave them a large boost towards the top. Sitting all the way at the bottom, we have Karl Malone's Utah Jazz. The experience for everyone isn't quite there. Also, we don't like Karl Malone around here, so this is perfect in my opinion. Making our way over to the East, Chicago, Boston, and New York York are your top 3 seeds. As of right now, the race is super competitive. Not only that, we have a lot of old people taking over. MJ leading the Bulls was drafted in 1984, while Bird came into the league 6 years prior. Patrick Ewing became a New York Knick during the 1985 draft, while Dominique was selected 3 years before him. 5th seed in Nets with Julius Erving weren't even associated with the NBA during his tenure on the team. Cleveland being the 6th seed is a shocker. Bringing LeBron back has left them as mediocre. They don't have anything to be complacent over though. Making the playoffs is the #1 concern for everyone. As long as they get a foot in the door, I'm sure they won't mind. With only 7 wins and 47 losses, we have the Washington Wizards. Their greatest player of all time doesn't really score the ball too often. It's not that he's necessarily bad at it. It just, you know, it's not a part of his game. By far the most shocking teams from both sides are the Milwaukee Bucks and Los Angeles Lakers. Neither of them seem to be doing that good so far. At the end of the regular season, Luka Doncic wins the first MVP. Zachary Rissache is Rookie of the Year. Julius Randle wins 6th man. Makes sense because he has KG in front of him. Victor Wembanyama DPOY. Amin Thompson's Most Improved. Shay's the 6th man. Jason Kidd is Coach of the Year. Legends to make All-NBA first team are Wilt Chamberlain, Julius Erving, and LeBron James. Man, he is tearing things up in Golden State. 27 and 14 in the modern NBA. Apparently, he also hit a 3. It's unfortunate that Luka's as great as what he is, because we would have been able to crown an entirely different MVP. Second team features Kevin Garnett, Russell Westbrook, Oscar Robertson, Tim Duncan. Following that is Larry Bird and Dwayne Wade. Before progressing to the playoffs, having a look at all the players to not make it anywhere close to the postseason are Karl Malone, Steve Nash, Chris Paul with both Clippers plus Pelicans. Lastly, on this side of the bracket is Clyde Drexler in Portland. Wes Unseld's Wizards remained at the bottom of the barrel, which seems to add up. The other all-time greats were Vince Carter, Kemba Walker, Isaiah Thomas, and Sixers Julius Erving. Speaking of Dr. J, his younger variant over there in Brooklyn doesn't survive the play-in gauntlet after being taken down by the 2 Florida-based teams of Orlando, then Miami. Only other organization left that also fell short early in season 1 was Indiana. Of the 4 teams remaining, Denver was the first to move on, which means they're set to play Anthony Edwards alongside Garnett. Next up is Akeem Olajuwon with Kobe Bryant. They go head-to-head leading their respective teams, yet number 24 guides Lakers to 1 out of the 2 wins needed. Memphis is the next team in front of them that also holds home court advantage. Despite the lack of all-time greats compared to LA, a 7-seeded Grizzlies push on and now have to face Luka Doncic as well as Dirk Nowitzki. Very first matchup is between Boston and Milwaukee. This is going to be historic because it's Kareem versus Larry Bird. After simulating our first matchup, Milwaukee wins it in the end, but now it's Patrick Ewing versus LeBron. This is way more unique than the first one. Taking a very dominant first step was James. He led his team to victory with 38 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. As you can see here, Boston is seeking revenge. They do end up getting it on their home floor. Meanwhile, in New York, they are unable to contain King James. Really curious to know who's going to win this next one. After simulating, it heads over to Kareem. Back in Ohio, Cavs take a 3-0 lead. There are 4 other organizations in the exact same position as them. Meanwhile, Chicago and Minnesota only have 2 wins. Thankfully, Jason Tatum and Bird combined for 80 points. Otherwise, they would have fell from this Hall of Fame trio in Wisconsin. You don't need a microscope to see that the Knicks got destroyed in only 4 games. It's not nearly as embarrassing because Memphis, San Antonio, OKC, and Orlando lined up in the same exact position. All right, everyone, it comes down to this. These 2 franchises have practically been playing tug of war with each other this entire time. Getting the last laugh was the hick from French Lick. By the way, if you don't know, that means Larry Bird. Leading their teams to victory as well as Michael Jordan and Kevin Garnett. Up first is Minnesota and Golden State. Preventing Wilt Chamberlain from going on an absolute rampage is priority #1, which makes this the perfect time to have Rudy Gobert on the team. I don't know what the coaching staff is cooking up because he's not in the starting 5. Coming up next in the Eastern Conference, I know y'all see it. We got MJ versus LeBron in only the 2nd round. Quite honestly, I really only want to watch this. Well, it did come down to the wire. MJ put up 37 and 10, while LeBron was really nowhere to be found as far as scoring is concerned. He had 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 12 assists. Y'all thought I was kidding too. No, I really only want to watch this right now. Their second meeting goes to the Bulls. Third is the exact same result. Score is 128 to 125. Cleveland's down by 3 points. Evan Mobley shoots the 3 and he cashes it in. MJ throws up a full court shot and nearly he hits the front iron. Despite the clutch shot, Bulls wind up winning in overtime. James dropped 51 points, 8 rebounds, and 11 assists. This loss unfortunately carries over to the next one, as the Cleveland Cavaliers have officially been eliminated. Across the league, you didn't really miss out on anything else. You know what? Just to speed things up, let's simulate the round. Celtics, Warriors, Mavericks are no longer in playoff contention, which means it's now up to Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Kevin Garnett, and Oscar Robertson. Timberwolves were not holding back whatsoever, as they absolutely steamrolled their way to the finals. However, winning by only 1 point was MJ's Bulls. Now the very first championship of the video is up for grabs. All right, everyone, I'm gonna simulate through the first few. After pressing only a couple more buttons, Minnesota's leading in this series by a mile. All right, Mike, this definitely would hurt your legacy if you were to lose right now. Not to worry though, because he dropped 41 to get the W. Bulls are only down by 2 points. Josh Giddey made his way over to the left wing. You gotta hand it over to Mike in this situation. I'm not sure why he's just sitting in the corner. Maybe it's because he has Garnett on him. But Kobe White puts up the jump shot and it rolls in and out, which of course means our brand new NBA champions are the Minnesota Timberwolves. And now our second season in the NBA is underway, which of course means trade deals can now be offered. While scouring through the league, every roster seemed to be pretty much the exact same. I did notice that Ivica Zubac and Michael Porter Jr. were exchanged for one another. However, other than that, there didn't really seem to be too much noise. Luka Doncic won MVP. Daryl Hood is Rookie of the Year. I have no idea who Daryl Hood is. Tyler Hero is 6th man. Wilt Chamberlain, DPOY. Here is your All-NBA first team selections. The second team doesn't seem to be anything too crazy. Last but not least, here is the third. I'm really interested to see who's going to make the second round. Reigning champions are now facing off against Dirk Nowitzki. I just realized we never have Dirk in any of these videos. There might be a good reason for that, as the lights were brighter than expected. Anthony Edwards led his team to victory with 41 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists. Timberwolves are on the right path to winning multiple championships. The main thing they need right now is San Antonio to be upset by Golden State. If that happens, it's more than likely going to come down to the Cavs or New York. Well, ignore everything I just said because they just got eliminated. Our Eastern Conference Finals matchup is between LeBron James and Larry Bird. With the Mavericks and Warriors, we have Luka versus Steph, Kyrie versus Moses Moody. That's not very interesting. Klay Thompson versus Andrew Wiggins. Jonathan Minga has a very difficult task of guarding Dirk. Derek Lively versus Wilt Chamberlain. In only 6 games, the MVP comes out on top, while the 2-seeded Cavaliers survive at Game 7. Now we have Luka Doncic, Dirk Nowitzki versus LeBron James and Donovan Mitchell. Either way, on the bright side, we're going to crown a new champion. Well, let's see who's going to win the first one. It goes to Dallas. They won the next one as well. What about the third? Cleveland manages to snap out of it. Well, this is not good. Donovan Mitchell drops 38 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists to stay alive. However, other than that, Cavs come up short. Our year number 2 champs win it in Dallas, Texas. Retiring over in Los Angeles is LeBron James, which means the Lakers more than likely won't be great. Jimmy Butler was traded to the Boston Celtics in exchange for Drew Holiday and a 2nd-round pick. Chris Middleton was sent to the Golden State Warriors. If you're curious to see some of the other trades, here they are being shown on screen. I'm going to go ahead and skip over to the conference finals because it's pretty clear by this point who we're going to get. On one side of the equation, Cleveland and Detroit both make it despite being play-in teams. These two have returned for one final battle. Luka was delivering a beatdown as he had 29 points, 13 rebounds, and 24 assists, while Kate Cunningham and Isaiah Thomas are clicking together really well. Also, I just noticed Brandon Miller is on the team. This brand new Michigan trio wins the East, while on the other side of things, Dallas forces a Game 7 by only 3 points. Not quite sure who I'd personally root for in this situation. Doesn't really matter as Minnesota comes out on top. Now we have Kevin Garnett going up against Isaiah Thomas. Nothing crazy is going on in this series as Detroit's getting laughed off the floor. With 2.1 seconds remaining, Detroit is down by 15 points. They didn't totally dominate this video, but 2 out of the 3 rings, they did pretty well for themselves. Of course, he wins another Finals MVP. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you all in the next one. I'm out.